Coming up on this episode of Small Town Charm, we're going to continue our conversation all about the Board of Commissioners meeting and zoning, density, what the nags want, what they don't want, and a whole lot more. It's all coming up on Small Town Charm. Stay tuned.
Did I tell you guys that she stopped me at the gym?
No?
Yeah, she. So I was at the rec center and her kid was playing basketball in the gym, and I walked over. There's like the water fountains right by the gym entrance, and so she and Mike were standing outside the entrance, and her kid walks to the water fountain. And I've got like my headphones in, and I'm all sweaty, and her kid is taking forever, and I just want to get a drink of water. And so then he turns around and like kind of walks into me. I took my headphone out and I was like, "Oh, sorry." Like super nice. Like he's a kid. I'm not gonna like chew him out or something. But then like he walks over to her and she looks at me, and she walks up to me and she's like, "You're Chris, right?"
It's like, yes, I am.
We've never met.
Oh.
She's like, "You're Chris, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Well, enjoy your workout," and then walked away. It was so like I just want you to know I know who you are.
Well,
and it's like, well, yeah, I hope you know who I am.
It happened to me with
only
Kate.
Submitted 3 ethics
against you.
I was looking over.
Keep this in the podcast.
I was looking over at the nags before the meeting. Looking back in that corner, and I was like doing this. I'm deaf in this year, and so Kate, her family, were right in front of me, and apparently she had like said my name a few times. She's like, "Hello, Daniel. Hello, Daniel." Hello, Daniel. I was like, "Oh, hey." She's like, "Wave." I was like, "Oh, hey." She's like, "Hi, Daniel. I'm Kate. It's nice to finally meet you in person."
Oh my god!
And I said, "Yeah, nice to meet you too." And she's like, "Okay," and that was it.
I love the whole like we're unwilling to like be human beings kind of like treatment.
Yeah,
you know, it's like, well, since we're in person, I'm going to call you out now because all you ever do is troll me online,
right?
Or be like super nice,
or like think that
it's like no, like the mistake is that you think that like I have a certain tone when I say these things online. It's like I'm literally like laughing my ass off half the time when I write this stuff, and I'm in like the best mood ever. Like I'm not mad.
Like, and you're also not gonna like freak me out or like make me disconcerted because you said hi to me.
Yeah,
that doesn't bother me.
I would also absolutely get a cup of coffee or a beer with any of them.
Yeah.
And just be like, yeah, I completely disagree. And actually, I do think that you sometimes violate the ethics code. And that's why I filed these things, is because, like, that's legitimately the only recourse I have.
Right.
I'm not going to, phone you up and be like, you hurt my feelings. Like,
yeah.
What freaks me out, though, is that they'll have, like, this thing where they separate, like, their 411 Facebook personality with real life. Mm-hmm. And that freaks me out. Like, whatever you see on the 401, whatever you see on the insider, that's me. Like, that's the same. Like, I actually kind of tone it down. Yeah. Like, you guys, like, we're on text chains together. Like, there's, like, I tone it down on TNI. I don't, like, up it for the performance.
I mean, case in point, like, the three of us are sitting here talking the same way we talk everywhere else. Like, it doesn't change.
Are we recording now? We just want to make this, like, I can find
sure.
it.
I mean, we're like, just go for it.
4 minutes in at this point.
I can find an entry point somewhere that doesn't give away too much importance,
I don't
private
care.
stuff.
I'll stand behind everything I've said so far. So.
Yeah, no, it's fine. But no, it's true. I said that at some point a couple episodes ago, I think, that, like, I don't say anything on the 401 or whatever, Facebook, that I wouldn't say to a person. And I think I hopefully proved it in my public comments. Like, I'm going to say what I'm going to say. I don't perform better or worse online. I think typically when I type online, I try to have my thoughts put together a little bit more because I have time to write. Of course, you why wouldn't you? But I'm not being nicer on person, online, or meaner online than I am in real life.
Sure.
It's just what
or
it
like
is.
a different
personality.
Like you're right.
Yeah.
Like they almost treat it like it's a completely different, like, not only tone but like opinion too. like, oh, like I'm not really this outspoken in real life. Like that's my online personality. It's like no, like my opinion and my tone doesn't change.
Yeah, I think the hard thing is like online, it is hard to get a sense of people's tone. So like I think that's partially where
I
like
just always imagine everybody naked. That's not,
I mean, that's fair. It's probably a good way to go about it. But
no, so
I think people that's where like the bully connotation comes from. Is like, we say some pretty aggressive things sometimes, or just like some pretty opinionated things,
Yeah.
and we take stances that aren't popular. And
I
so,
met with somebody this week, like Monday, yesterday, right? No, maybe it was last week. So I met somebody that was very, very against me, like very against me, and then like very toxic relationship online. And then some time went by. This person reached out. They apologized to the point of like just not like, oh, I'm sorry for everything I did. It was just like, hey, I'm sorry that I came off this way. And I'm like, I wasn't taking it that way. Like this, like I was taking you kind of trying to imitate me. Like my tone is always like, if like it's always to be entertaining. It's never to be mean or bully, like being a bully. My tone is like entertaining. I'm trying to put humor into it just so it doesn't mean so much. Like because at the end of the day, this stuff doesn't mean that much. Like to kind of your point, like whatever zoning we adopt, whatever policies we make, whoever we elect, like we all live in $1 million homes. And we got there
Right.
by buying $400,000 homes. Like that's insanity. Like
right.
it's pretty nice out here.
Yeah.
Like this is like by far the nicest place I've ever lived in.
Yeah.
And the zoning, sure, we can we can maximize our potential with great zoning, and we can also spend a ton of time sitting in traffic with bad zoning. Like look outside.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like we're this is still a very desirable place to live. This is still a very great place to live. So I'm not going to like treat this as life and death. I'm going to have fun with it because I like to me I am donating my time. Like sitting here, this is like what 10:30 at night.
Yeah.
Like this is after like I waking up at 6, doing a whole day of work, and then coming here after doing all the father things. Like so, this is like a donation of my time. So I'm like if I'm not enjoying it, if I'm not having fun at some level. Like I'm not doing it. Like,
Right.
can you imagine just
Yeah.
being involved in this stuff where you're just miserable all the time?
Yeah.
Like this, like that's not my angle of this. So this person kind of reached out. I'm like, oh, this person was actually very angry at me. Like this
Yeah.
person actually thought that I was like the Nolensville's version of Satan, and he wanted to kind of correct he wanted to kind of correct that image. So he invited me to coffee, and then we went out for coffee. And I can see his mind getting blown that I'm like a regular human being. Like this person makes the same type of jokes. His opinion doesn't change. He doesn't he doesn't like pull back on his takes because it's in person. Like he makes like we talked about mixed use buildings. Told him exactly how I feel about it, and it's the exact same thing I wrote in blogs and the exact
Right.
same thing I put in writing. And then I can kind of I saw his mind getting blown. That it was like the personality never changed. And then like when you were talking about like Haley coming up to you and saying hi to you, like that's I kind of like I thought back to that because like a lot of people don't feel that. A lot of people go online like viewing that part of their life as like this completely different part of themselves.
Yeah.
Which you run into a ton of trouble when you do
No,
that.
I mean, you make a great point. I was at a party a few months ago. It was just like a friendly get together here in Summerlin, and
You just give away your subdivision.
He already told me about. That's right.
but I mean, I was talking to I was talking to this woman, and after I don't know, like 30 minutes of like kind of chit chat and stuff like that, she was like, like I've never really gotten to know you or like ever had a real conversation with you, but this was like really refreshing because I heard you weren't a nice guy. And I was just like, my mind was like blown. Like I was like, this is just, I mean, obviously like I've had people like call me out and stuff online, but like, in person, like I've never had anyone say what I'm sure is like in the rumor mill and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
it was just like, oh, but I was also like glad because it's like, yeah, like to your point, it's like if you would like just sit down and like get to know us, I mean, you'd be shocked. It's like we're all like dads with kids who like are invested in our families and like, you know,
In the community.
in the community. Like we don't do this because we're not like invested in this because we just like, you know, like get off trying to like blow people's worlds up and like
Right.
we just want to like take Nolensville like down. It's like no, like we actually like legitimately care about where Nolensville's headed, and we just have a different vision
Yeah.
for where it should go.
I
correct vision, by the way. Let's go the correct
It's the
vision.
correct vision.
my target is always trying to be as funny as possible first. That's like that's like what I care about more. Obviously, again though, I care about it's not that doesn't take priority over anything else, but like the my wife was actually asking me earlier about why I like a certain band that I like, and I was talking about how I really relate to the lyrics, the way that they choose to write lyrics and incorporate humor into the lyrics as a way of communicating commentary on like society. For whatever reason, like jokes for me are like the way that like even like serious topics, that's the thing that connects with me more than like just let's sit down and be serious right now.
Was it Blink 182?
No, but that's that's a little more extreme. But no, it's the same idea though. Like being funny,
Yeah.
actually can communicate something serious, and like so like that's kind of like the way that I think about the world is like through like cracking jokes on things or like through being sarcastic. It's not that it's not me trying to show disrespect to something or like dislike something. In fact, the opposite. Like I actually like I crack jokes as my way of understanding.
Well, yeah, and
feel
I mean,
Jeez, Daniel, we're soulmates.
Yeah.
I hate to get into like we probably shouldn't get into the generational debate and like that divide, but that certainly exists here in Nolensville, and it certainly exists on like Nolensville's social media channels.
Dude, the median
But-
age of Nolensville residents is 36 years old. The median age of those meeting attendants is like 86 years old.
Yeah.
So like the generation divide it's not a hidden secret. It's a very visible.
But I mean, to Daniel's point, like, okay, I mean, you think about it, it's like we come from the generation where like for a while where our generation consumed news was like the Daily Show with Jon
Yeah.
Stewart. Like
100%.
we didn't actually watch the real news.
We just watched
we
that.
just watched a comedian
Yeah, the
delivering the
late-night
news
shows,
and
right.
making like humorous commentary.
Yep.
So like I mean I tend to take the same stance. I just think that like that evolved into like like Twitter and like trolling and like or what's considered trolling, which is really just like for the most part people just trying to like make opinionated commentary in a humorous
Yeah, that's
way.
a bit much. But like so to kind of keep on topic, you know, the last episode we talked about pearl clutching and virtue
Yeah.
signaling, and then to just kind of hear what we heard in public comments. Another part of the next thing that happened in the BOC meeting as we're working our way through it, the next thing of
Oh, we're still talking about that.
yeah, we are.
Oh yeah.
Of note was the zoning. So Goodall got passed. Okay, whatever, fine.
Yeah.
We talked about that. Yeah, jokes on somebody, the Nags maybe. The zoning rewrite.
The big ticket item though.
Zoning and to kind of backtrack a little bit, the other part that I thought was hilarious was that Terry Adams also in his public comments mentioned that he had provided. Well, number one thing interesting. One of the things you pointed out in your post was that Salamita said that she had been meeting with developers for Goodall to understand this more. In her campaign, she talked about how when Derek talked about doing that, she talked about how she didn't think that commissioners shouldn't be meeting with developers. Literally, again, not day zero of her being a commissioner, she already was doing it.
Yeah.
So again, I don't. It's the same thing with like the I wasn't offended by someone cracking a joke at me, but if you're going to go there, you can't be mad when I go there. It didn't offend me, so I'm not saying that I was hurt by it. It's just you're the one saying you want healing, and now you're mad at me for not doing it, but you can't even uphold that. I don't care if the commissioner meets with the developer or not, but if you're going to say you can't, you probably shouldn't.
Right.
But Terry Adams presenting a spreadsheet that, based on his description of it, I haven't seen it. Based on his description of it, it literally just takes a couple of cells and multiplies them, and then tells you a number. Which I just like, man, wow, you need a spreadsheet to like multiply density times acres, and you get a number of how many units that is. That's what he explained it as. And then later on in the meeting, some of the NAG's commissioners, as I would call them, referred to it as that. Like we probably should spend some time with this document that Mr. Adams, this tool that Mr. Adams gave us. You mean a calculator that multiplies two numbers together? Thank
The
you.
modeling tool.
Thank you so much for this complicated document you gave us that tells us how many units we're
Yeah,
going to get.
and
when we have a
instead
certain
of
density.
relying on our town manager Victor, who's like
Our planner
or our planner who have
firm
like
we
years of
hired.
experience, or
Yeah.
the firm we hired.
for $400,000.
Yeah, but I mean, Victor, I don't know. It was like 2, 3, 4 years ago. Like I don't remember when Victor came to Nolensville. Was it 2 years ago, Mike? 3 years ago?
January is going to be 2 years.
Okay, so like
believe.
right after Victor started, I remember I had a conversation with Derek, and I told Derek, "Hey, you should tell Victor to start creating some sort of like plan, like a spreadsheet, some sort of plan. Work with Christina in finance, work with like people within the town staff who are experts, and start calculating like revenue per acre, and model it based on like tax revenue." And you can get into the weeds and make all these assumptions.
Yeah.
Well, he finally did that. So like it's taken 2 years to produce this thing. Victor has it, and they can literally plug in any development, and it'll spit out, if we go with this density, here's the kind of tax revenue benefit to the town. If we go with this density, like
You can project out 15 years of
Yeah.
15-year replacement cost. For
so. I mean, no offense to Terry Adams, like props, like at least you did some homework and you like spent some time building anything
Yeah.
to try and do this. But like I'm gonna
I
go.
disagree.
I'm gonna I'm
100%
gonna like
disagree.
I'm not gonna disagree. Like I mean like
How does his modeling take into effect parking regulations?
no, it doesn't. It doesn't. I'm just gonna say like props that he at least like put some effort in. But at the end of the
It's
day,
disingenuous effort.
I'm gonna
Chris.
go. Well, no, I'm gonna go with the experts and the people who actually like have all of the information, not some citizen who has like just what information they have access to and has zero experience doing this for a town.
And the first chance he got with his Facebook post after that meeting proved that he will skew the numbers
Yeah.
based on what his opinion is.
Correct.
It's
Exactly.
it's a disingenuous. What do they call it? I'm an immigrant. Give me a second.
straw man?
Intellectually dishonest, right?
Yeah.
So you know what's going on. That's
Yeah.
pretty good. I pronounced that right. So you know what's going on. You understand you understand the concepts of the numbers you're spewing, and you have just enough information to skew the numbers for your own benefit.
Right.
Like he went on Facebook and said Darcy's 20 units an acre.
Right.
Because he extrapolated the area that the apartments are going to be in, not the total development size.
Right.
And he's like, oh, it's 20. If you don't count all this other stuff, like all this open space that they're providing, all these roads, that's 20 units an acre. And Goodall's only 1.1 or 1.49. It's like, yeah, but for Goodall, you used like 100 acres of open space that they're providing.
He did the exact opposite.
He did- right.
He
So
took different calculations.
You're being intellectually dishonest. And then I haven't seen this chart, and I don't need to see this chart. Like he can't model me the all the regulations that go into
Right.
They go into restricting density other than the density cap. Like there's open space requirements. There's like every time you put a road in, you need 60 feet of right of way on both sides. You have setbacks. You have greenways. You have height requirements. So this whole crap about I'm here to help you. That's nothing more than like, look how big the numbers I can like. I can
Yeah,
I can make them
look,
grow so big.
I'm never gonna trust like an average citizen, and I'm not saying that knockingly. Like I'm never gonna trust a citizen to come up with numbers that outweigh the experts.
let me say this just after you said that, because I've already said it once in this episode. But don't trust us either.
Yeah.
Like, go do your own research.
Right.
You're not hearing the other people say that. You're just hearing us say that. So, like, we're going to say don't trust an average citizen,
Yep.
but also don't trust us. Like, go actually look into this stuff and find out what the truth is.
Yep.
Because they're not encouraging you to do that. They're encouraging you just to take their numbers and believe them.
But I think it's a huge problem. Okay, so it's one thing for a citizen to come out and say, like, well, here's my calculations. It's a whole nother thing, though, for like elected officials to then take the citizens' numbers and to just like blanketly ignore the town manager.
Yeah.
Like the person whose salary they set.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just like my mind is just blown at all the things that occurred in this first meeting.
And it's all for like the 4 people that watch it.
Correct.
It's all just pandering to the 4 people that might watch the live stream. I think it's hilarious that like this whole all these meetings, every single one of them is this theater of political talking points, as if there was like thousands of viewers. There isn't. Like nobody, like you can't tell me.
There's not even hundreds of viewers, I don't think.
No,
Dozens.
it's like us.
There are dozens of
Yeah, there's dozens. Like, why are you spending 4 hours of your life talking in circles for the off chance that there might be one new viewer introduce that meeting?
Right.
Like, that's such an unproductive time. Like, such an unproductive use of your time.
Right.
You might as well just go knock on on a random person's door and give him your propaganda. You have a better chance of landing that.
Some people did that this last
Yeah.
election.
Yeah.
They did.
And other elections.
And other.
So with the zoning, my understanding is nothing really happened. They have 80 something amendments they have to make. Oh, I did write
83.
this down. Was it Brent Schultz?
Yeah.
He made a comment.
Brent is our town planner.
Yes,
Town
town
planner.
planner. Yeah. So he basically, I'm just going to read you what I wrote in the meeting.
Yeah, do it.
All right.
He said, this is not what he said. This is paraphrasing.
Quote.
But kind of quote.
Don't take our word for it.
Referring to the zoning, you all f***ed up this document so bad.
Definitely paraphrasing.
Yeah, paraphrasing. You all f***ed up this document so bad from where it started that we have to have someone do it all for us. We have someone to write all these amendments into the document because you've changed it so much from where we started. And we don't have anyone to do it right now. He can't do it because he's working on entitlements. All of his time's taken up with that. And also, there's no one available to hire to do it. So we've got to spend more money making all these amendments to this document that you all wanted because you messed it up so bad.
Yeah.
And basically what I got was eyes glazing over from the BOC members, realizing they were going to have to talk through all 80 of these and resolve all of these. And I kind of feel like that was the goal all along from some people on the PC, was to just, even if it passes, it's going to be so butchered that when we get to this new BOC, they were aiming for this the whole time, that it wouldn't be the old guard, it'd be the new people coming in, that they wouldn't have the energy to go through it all one by one. And they're just going to say, oh, well, it's too much. We're overwhelmed. Let's just send it back. Again, all shucks, I'm new here. I didn't do any research. Vote for me. I know what I'm talking about. But once I'm elected, all shucks, I don't know what I'm talking about. Send it back. And that's exactly what happened. Is I think they're going to end up sending it back. I can't imagine them.
I'm to the point. I believe I've said this in the last episode. I'm to the point where I'm just like positive. Like, I have zero confidence in this crew getting it right. That just leave it. Leave Owensville undevelopable.
Yep.
And just take these PDs as they come, pass the good ones, butcher the bad ones, and just let's pause it. Let's try again.
Wait for 2 years until some adults can get.
Yeah,
back.
the idea that there's that we have a planning commission, and I'll give them the benefit of the doubt of they don't know any better. But the idea of the planning commission and now the BOC arguing density maxes on form-based zoning is just such a ridiculous concept. There's form-based zoning is designed not to have density maxes. The density gets controlled by the form and the regulations you put on the form,
Right.
not the cap.
Right.
So like you're arguing the wrong thing. If you want less people, you're arguing the wrong thing. That density cap is only there because the person that you paid $400,000 for realized that you are going to get into your own way, so he gave you something to argue about.
Yep.
And you're spending all your time about like these units per acre that don't really mean anything.
Correct.
Because if you have 1 acre, like, let's just dumb it the hell down to the very elementary level of this. You have 1 acre, and it's in the triangle in zone CD5. That 1 acre, Terry Adams will model you these 24 scary apartments that are going to produce 48 people with 52 cars and 110 children, right? Like some bullcrap like that.
Yeah.
But that's not the case because that 1 acre needs a road, that needs 60 feet of right of way, needs setbacks on all four sides,
Yep.
needs green space, has slope restrictions. You can't build on certain slope grades, has parking regulations, has you have to put the water somewhere. So you have retention ponds. Like if you don't, you can choose to go in a tank underneath your parking lot, but that's pretty expensive and there's a ton of rock in Tennessee. So most people just do a detention pond that takes up a lot of space. Like on the end of the day, you're only left with like a quarter of an acre of buildable land.
Right.
And you're arguing if we should allow 24 units on that quarter acre.
It's never going to
have,
happen.
we already have a 4-story high requirement, and you're requiring a first-story commercial.
I mean,
it's physically impossible to put 24 units
point,
on that acre.
Yes, the point you're making is like you physically cannot build. It doesn't matter what the density number is at the max.
Because you can't build
When you
to it.
boil
get there. You can't
yeah,
even
when you
close to
boil it down, the zoning ends up making that density number impossible. So
Right.
like there is a theoretical max of what you can build, but it's certainly not whatever that number is.
What I'm hearing you both say is that from someone like the agency that put this plan together, to watch us do what we're doing now is just, it's like watching Clowntown USA.
No, it's got to be like nails on a
Amateur
chalkboard. It's got to be the most
it's
irritating.
It's the dumbest. We're having the dumbest conversation.
I just have to say
over and over and over.
I just have to say, like, if this goes back to the PC and they have to re-vote on it and hire another firm to write it, and let's see what that costs. Like I'm just going to say it now, and they better just be ready for it. I am going to publicly blast the living out of every elected official for the fact that they wasted $400,000 of taxpayer money to write it the first time, and however many thousands of dollars it's going to cost to write it the second time, and how many months it's going to hold the town back from actually getting beneficial tax revenue because we don't have zoning that will allow the kind of stuff we really want to come into the town.
But that's not really the case though, because they pass all developments that come across. Like, have you noticed
that's
that?
fine.
Yeah.
The only thing they got the X was Enclave.
I know they're still so fine. They're still going to pass.
Not really even a development. Yeah.
They're still going to pass some stuff. Great, but like the point is, like, we wasted people's money. Like, it's not like we wasted the town's money. That's people's money. Like, we all paid for that in some realm. And so, like, I mean, to just like go up there and just say, well, oh, we don't want this kind of density, doesn't matter. Like, you're wasting people's money.
We paid for that, and that was a plan to keep our property taxes from going up.
Correct.
And now we're going to have to spend more money for a plan that may not prevent that from happening.
Correct.
So not only did we already pay for it, but when everyone's property taxes go up because of some other weird density thing that some other plan has in it,
Yep.
you can say, thanks to these people.
Yep.
Again, accountability. When that comes back around, it's not people being bullies, it's people holding people accountable for what the decisions they made were.
Yeah. Hashtag facts.
Yep. Let's take a break.
I think so. I've been thinking about this. Oh, we're recording.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
You can cut it. Maybe.
what? Okay. Well, that's what you say.
No, I've been thinking we should actually so we do breaks in the show.
Yeah.
But like we should actually get like some real commercials.
Do you want to take a GoPro to the bathroom with you?
I mean, we have these we have these natural break points because of cameras and stuff, but like, I don't know. I don't think it'd be that hard for us to find a couple businesses that are like, we could just do like a live read.
No, dude, I love that. We were at.
It would make it feel more natural, in my opinion.
I was at me and Loretta's. Me and Liz were yesterday. I should have done that because Wade was chatting with us for a minute, like that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to do that. We're not all bad. We're good. But that'd be fun to do. I agree.
We're not completely rotten.
Yeah, we're not terrible. We do try to be nice sometimes. All right, so that's fine. We can make this part of the episode too. Let's keep it real casual. I prefer that actually. Like
I mean, I'm literally posting to our story as we go. So.
Love it. I love it. So everyone can look back on our stories and know when we were recording this. It's late.
It's 11 o'clock on a Tuesday.
It is 11:15. Oh, I see it back there.
The things I do for Nolensville.
I know, right? For Nolensville.
For Nolensville. To make it a better Nolensville.
Snap. I wanted to do that on camera. So it's getting late. I don't
Yeah.
have some beer. So we got through the zoning thing. Nothing really happened with it. I think we've kind of worked our way through the meeting. We don't have to make this last segment super long. One thing that I do want to kind of maybe tease for people is someone mentioned this earlier that we've heard some feedback that maybe we should try to really go out of our way to dumb things down, and that's not like an offensive way, but I do think even I try to play the role. I told someone this the other day. He was talking to me about this. I try to play the role of like the uninformed person and ask the questions, but even I realize I catch myself especially when I like am editing these episodes and hear myself back. I take things for granted, thinking that everyone understands certain things
Right. Which it's natural.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I definitely think there's some room for us to do some episodes about like a basic concept of like where does the money to pay for things really come from in this town?
Like shorts. 2-minute shorts.
Yeah. Like an explainer almost of this is where it comes from, because I think a lot of people hear us talking a lot about density, for example, and they don't see where like the number of houses, and we had an episode about this a little bit, we hit on it, but if someone's not listening to our whole 2-hour episode, they might miss the little salient point in the middle of all that, which is we're not saying that density gives you the revenue. It's density brings the commercial that brings the revenue, and that's what the type of commercial that pays for things tax wise. They do look at density. They look at those things. So it's like
Of course.
it's like a we're talking about one layer deeper than like what actually generates the money.
Right.
And if people aren't constantly paying attention to everything, for example, if we're the entry point for people into all this stuff, they might be missing some of that. So I think we can do some episodes like that kind of.
I think I think that there's a lot of misconceptions about. So we spend all this time fighting undesirable residential units. Like all we're getting is undesirable commercial space. Like I mean, you look at crazy timing. We did that episode about different types of businesses in town and how some are good, some are not so good, and like if we should allow bad reviews on the 401. Like we remember that episode, and then we released it, and the very next day, we recorded it, and the day we had planned to release, Southern Eatery went out of business,
Right,
and then the Book Nook had to move. Me and Loretta's had to cancel brunch hours.
Yeah.
It's like, well, these businesses don't necessarily suck. They're in a sucky environment for commercial space.
I mean,
you can't run a successful place out of a strip mall.
Sounds like a marketplace to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
That's how it works.
it doesn't matter. It like to me, and this is the area where I'm uneducated about. I've never had experience to retail. The businesses I ran were more service than retail. So but just with this uneducated view on how commercial space works and how like my shopping trends go, like you can have the best burger in town, and if you're in a strip mall, I'm not making special concessions to go there.
Yeah.
Like you're convenient, you're there, I'll go, but I'm not we're not doing like dudes nights out in the strip mall. I'm not wasting that 1 hour a month that my wife lets me out of the house on a strip mall visit.
Yeah, I think it depends on one, your location, but two, like how good is that burger? Because like there are some burgers that have won. If we're staying on the burger trend, there's some burgers that have
You
won.
want a burger of the year, didn't you?
Yeah, sure, but but like there was a burger that won the year before that is in the middle of a shopping center on Nolensville Road in Old Hickory, next to like a Kroger and a former like Kids R Us.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, the two things. Number one, to kind of go back, I mentioned earlier that we went to lunch at me and Loretta's yesterday. It was great. But after that, on the way home, full disclosure, we did try to stop at Itty Bitty Donuts first. As soon as I pulled in the driveway or the parking lot, I remembered that they're closed on Mondays. They were closed. So we went to Cornell Brothers because, again, they're great. We went in there, though, inside of Oh My Chives. It was like maybe 1:15, 1:30, a little late for lunch.
Yep.
Place was packed.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
always packed.
Full.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, like there's so much going on.
Right.
Again, we talked about them last time, but like it's not impossible to succeed. Like
No.
there are great places that, and
But
it's not
they're in a mixed use development. Like,
Yeah,
as
that is.
crappy as that mixed use development is, it is the only mixed use development we have.
But
it's funny how that happens, isn't it?
Right.
So I guess I don't know. We don't have to do a whole thing on like this topic again because I think we hashed it to death. But like the best indicator that any business owner should ever use is the marketplace. The market never lies. Like, and that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with Nolansville because like everybody commutes into work and there's no lunch crowd or whatever. No, it's like wake up, open your eyes. That's just the marketplace. So like you either figure out how to build a business and survive in that marketplace or you don't. And like this is what happens.
But I mean, so I'm gonna fight you on that a little bit. The brewery.
Yeah, what about
If the government stayed out of your way, would it be better?
Yeah, 100%.
So if the government stayed out of insert burger joint, Mexican joint here, and allowed more mixed use, more desirable commercial space that made it available to people like me and Loretta's, Cabo's, Tzatziki's, any business.
Yeah, but okay, like it's not going to change the fact though that like okay, if you open for lunch, like I love Wade, I love me and Loretta's, but it's like we're not going to change the fact that the lunch crowd isn't going to go pay like $15 for a burger. The lunch crowd here is willing to go to Martin's because like if you're a blue collar worker that's like building construction and doing things like that, like you go eat barbecue. For some reason, like barbecue can garner those kind of prices, but like every other food choice can't. If you're getting a burger for lunch in Nolansville, you're probably going to Sonic because that's where the lunch crowd goes in Nolansville. Not exclusively
the lunch crowd that's here,
correct.
meaning construction
Meaning
workers.
workers and like contractors and things like that. That's the main lunch crowd in Nolansville. So like look at the restaurants that are busy and doing fine during lunch. That's who they're drawing.
Well, that's the thing that eats me up about
Ooh, nice pun.
yeah. But you build some suburban neighborhoods, suburbs. You build these subdivisions. There's nothing you live there and that's it. You can't do anything else there. So of course this is super basic. But again, I'm trying to think of people who aren't as far into the conversation as we have gotten.
Sure.
With this, you only can live there. So you want to eat. Of course, there's strip malls that pop up because those strip malls are the perfect solution for those other things for people who live in subdivisions.
Yep.
Because it's nothing but stores of smaller size restaurants, knick-knack shops, whatever. So of course that happens. The thing that, again, to kind of go all the way back to the beginning of this episode, Larry Feltz, who was responsible for the strip malls that are all up and down Nolansville Road, saying this all works. This is all working the way it is. Of course it's working if you think that that's what this town should be, but it also there's no arguing. I said this in a post too. It's not mean to someone when the facts say they're wrong to tell them they're wrong. That actually could be helping them. It could be the first step in them becoming more enlightened and more understanding of something. Is saying
It's an intervention.
the facts do not support your position. Here's what the facts say. The facts say that strip malls generate road traffic more than other types of developments do. There is no arguing that. That's the truth. So if you like that, yes, this is working great. If you like traffic, my problem is people who are against mixed use or other kinds of developments are almost this like dictator type mentality of saying, I know I've got what I want. I like the strip malls. I like where I live and I like going to strip malls for my stuff. You, sir or madam, who want something different, you cannot have anything different. The only thing we can have here is what I like and what we already have. There is a Hardee's being built, correct me if I'm wrong, that is drive-through only.
Right.
And you know what? It's going to crush it.
Yeah.
It's literally going to do better than probably most of
gonna
the
do great.
businesses in town.
But if you don't like,
Why they're building it.
there was a time. Maybe one of the first online conversations I had with someone about that, and it was from someone that is familiar to all of us in the online world, an older lady who found out the Hardee's was being built and was like, "Why is there a Hardee's being built there?" And I said, "Because it's zoned for that, and they didn't have to get any. I mean, they had the right to build that there.
Yeah.
Vested rights.
It
Yeah.
fit the zoning. It's there." And she was like, "Well, yeah, well, I don't like that. Why couldn't they have built a nicer restaurant there? Or why couldn't they have put the Hardee's?"
Why couldn't they get Chick-fil-A in there?
Yeah. And I said, "Well, what would you prefer? Would you prefer a standalone Hardee's like that? Or would you have liked that Hardee's to be like," and there was a picture of like a Hardee's that had been built in like a mixed use development with like some apartments on top. It looked nicer on the outside. It was, you had to walk in to get there and stuff. And she's like, "Well, I don't like that either. I don't want that." I'm like, "Okay, great. But tell me, of those two, which one you would prefer? Would you like the drive-through freestanding Hardee's fast food restaurant you know already, or the
Right.
other one?" She's like, "Well, obviously I like the other one better, but I don't like that either. I want this third option." I said, "Well, here's the thing. Like, there is no third option.
There isn't.
Right.
The
There
third
isn't
option is leaving. Her third option was leaving it alone the way it was.
Right.
Empty land. Okay, great. Again, it's this whole growth conversation. Take the not doing anything out of the consideration, and take the idea that we already have a dozen strip mall
Yep.
stores, dozens of strip malls, more than that, around this town. We've already tried that. And if you are saying don't change the zoning right now, you were saying, "I love the traffic we have right now. I love the way things are right now. Don't change anything." I just does not compute for me how people argue against trying something different.
Right.
Yeah.
How is the solution? How is the solution to what we have right now doing more of the same? That's my
I
question.
take this very like unemotional approach to like how land gets developed, and maybe that's not a good thing, but like I certainly want like really good quality locally run businesses. I think that there should be room for some like regionally attractive businesses too. Like I'm thinking of like, like Jenny's and stuff like that, but I guess in my book, it's like I'm fine with a fast food restaurant, because at the end of the day, like I want the highest and best use for every parcel of land.
Sure.
Because I just think that
you're going for revenue per acre.
yeah. So like what is it, if they can come in and they don't have to like get zoning changes or anything like that? Like I don't know. Like I'm willing to trust that Hardee's is not willing to spend a single dollar to develop a store unless they have done so much freaking research. And like those companies are smart.
Right.
Like they have like modeling that's like
Terry Adams.
that makes
great.
Terry Adams like
No, it's
looks like
it's
he's in first grade.
There's so much multiplication in that.
Correct. But like I mean like they will never put a shovel in the ground or drop $1 on constructing a new store unless they know almost like to a guaranteed level that it's going to produce a certain amount of revenue.
It is a guarantee. They're putting up money on it. That means all traffic counts and
Right.
and regional leakage and
And they
all that.
yeah, it's the traffic counts, but they also like look at the demographics and like the lunch hour traffic counts. And
Yeah.
who are the type of customers who are probably here during lunch hour? And to me, it just
And they made a decision like, hey, dining room's gonna be a waste.
Right.
Do a drive-through only.
right.
Like nobody that eats at Hardee's wants to sit at Hardee's.
I think, not to like circle back on the point, but I just have a really hard time like saying that like the government should be in the business of picking winners and losers. We should just be setting the foundation for like there to be as much winning that can take place. But the government's never going to change the market demographics except if they were to do one key thing, which is to create zoning and start actually trying to court and attract certain types of businesses
Right.
to Nolensville. And I mean, I don't know if we've mentioned his name on here. Mike Walker used to be the town manager in Brentwood, and he's done some advising to Nolensville and has given us some of these suggestions before. But like the big thing that Brentwood did, if you look at their strip malls, they have tons of shopping and tons of commercial. But if you go to lunch in Brentwood, it's full of workers, like people who are at their job. It's not full of like soccer moms and like people who are home and like,
Empty nesters.
yeah, or
retired
just like I'm
folks.
going out to the knickknack shops for the afternoon, and so
Right.
I'm gonna go get some chicken salad at like whatever store. Like almost exclusively like anything off Franklin Road is full of people who work off Maryland Way. And that's like thousands of employees.
Maryland Farms.
Same thing in Franklin too.
Yeah.
Like anywhere in like McEwen and Cool Springs, there's businesses.
That's the whole concept.
With huge offices there.
That's the whole concept of Cool Springs. So you create enough. You create enough of a workforce to be able to subsidize a entire commercial district. Because Cool Springs, although it is in Franklin, some of it is in Brentwood. Cool Springs is like their commercial district.
Right. But see, like what it builds is this like it's a 3-pronged concept. So it's live, work, play, right? So if the concept is that you live in Franklin, and I know a lot of people like this. You probably do too. Like I live in Franklin, I work 15 minutes from my house in Franklin, and then I spend all my time playing in Franklin. I go to the mall. My kids play sports here. They go to high school or whatever. Like. You spend all of your time in one community, and guess what? That community soaks up all of your tax dollars.
Yeah, it's called leakage. Yeah.
Well. So what to kind of talk about the Hardee's thing? The great thing about that location for them is that again, they researched it. So it's the southern border bleeding from Davidson County, bleeding down into Williamson County.
Yeah.
So that whole Concord Road area where like they built the Aldi and all the rest strip malls, the restaurants that are there's a couple that are attached to that. That whole lunch crowd will come just a little further down the same way they go to like there's the Tito's and there's stuff that's and that stuff. It's a little harder to find that stuff. But anyway, having a drive-through Hardee's is going to be so attractive to them. But just imagine for me, if you will, for a moment, the idea that like 5 years down the road from now, we haven't changed anything about our zoning and we still have what we have now. And there's even more strip malls here. And people like me that I work from home. And so I do venture out. I never leave Nolensville for lunch. I always eat lunch here.
You're a unicorn.
Yeah. But I imagine people who are in the same situation as me, or even people who maybe do the same thing, but for dinner time, heading out, and your options are which strip mall do I go to, and this whole crowd from Davidson County has started to drift down and take up all the parking spaces. So
the precious parking space.
You drive 15 minutes to get 2 miles north from where you live to get to a strip mall for the restaurant you want. You get there, there's no parking because everyone from Davidson County is now coming here. Yep. And so then you go back on the road that you just went on and you created the traffic that you hate. You're not just hating the traffic, you are the traffic.
Yep.
You created the traffic and now you're creating more traffic because you couldn't go to the place you wanted to go. So you're just drifting around somewhere else, creating more traffic. Like again, if you hate the way traffic is now,
right?
Just imagine if we just get more strip malls,
right?
Just keep doing that.
Yeah. Well, and Mike, you said the word earlier, leakage, right? Like, I mean, if you look at these other cities that don't have as much leakage, like they don't have as many dollars that are just going outside their boundaries because you can't get that thing within the boundaries.
2016 Nolensville in 2016 or 18. Had $1.3 billion of leakage.
Yeah, like it's a crazy number.
It's
wow.
Like
how much is being spent outside of our borders because you have nowhere to spend those dollars in Nolensville.
Right.
But I think like we need leadership. We need people involved that start to view the fact that we don't have live, work, play at hand. Like the I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but like the calculation doesn't work. Like the solution we have for this problem
I'm just bummed.
Doesn't work because we're missing a key component of it. So like we have live and we have play. We don't have work. We have people that work remotely, but like not in like mass droves. Most of the people that live here work somewhere else. And so like they're gone.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have play, but I'm bummed because in true Nolensville's fashion, we like middle ground that whole thing. Like our NIMBYs can't keep development out of their backyards. Like every development, like Westmoreland, good old Southernland, like that's a winner. But like our NIMBYs can't NIMBY. Like our NIMBYs suck at NIMBYing.
Yeah.
And like our pro growth people suck at getting good growth.
Right.
Like as much as I like Darcy, as much as I like the revenue of Publix, those are pretty like it's a grocery store.
Right.
like that's like nobody's coming here from Franklin to come visit Darcy.
They want to see. They want to go to our Kroger versus their Kroger.
Right. I mean, I'm sure that Triune is gonna come out here.
Arrington, East Brentwood,
Right.
a little bit of Smyrna.
But it's like nobody's doing like girls' nights at
Right.
Darcy from Franklin.
Right.
Like, so
no, you're right. Like we don't have like the play in the adult sense.
right, and then but like so our NIMBYs cannot NIMBY, our pro growth cannot pro growth, and we just end up in this like vicious. It's like when things like this come up, I always think about like the NBA hell. Like like we're going 30 for 52 every year.
Yeah.
Like we don't suck enough to get a good draft pick, but we never make the playoffs. We're just like in that middle ground. It's like that's where we are. For
We're
the
like a
last 20
small
years.
market team.
Yeah, like we're like Memphis.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you call that out, though, again, it's amazing. I did that. I called it a nightmare, and I got booed because again, the pearl clutching. It's what it is. It's
because you don't love Nolensville.
I don't. No, how dare I? I don't respect any work that anybody
Yeah.
ever did.
But like think about this. If you hate growth, you suck at your job in Nolensville. We have nothing but growth.
Right.
If you hate insolvent neighborhoods, you suck at your job. We have nothing but insolvent neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So it's like both. Like it's to the point where like be a better NIMBY, be a better pro growth advocate because whatever you're doing is not working.
No,
And-
I think the problem is like everybody who comes in, there's way too many emotions involved in our government currently
And
by elected officials. Like, so everyone gets voted in on emotional votes of like, well, I don't want the town to look different, or like look at like just listen to the language that gets thrown out. Like, I don't want it to feel different, and it's like, what does any of that have to do with money and how things develop? Like, yes, certainly. Like, I'm not saying like the aesthetics don't matter and stuff like that, but like at the end of the day, all that matters is whether or not this town can actually function or not. And frankly, like it's functioning now to an extent, but like, is it functioning efficiently? It's questionable. And where do we end up in the future?
We haven't fire tested it yet. So the people
No,
the people that ended up the top of NIMBYs against growth. I'm gonna say it every time. It's so good. So the NIMBYs against growth that eventually decided that Goodall was good enough are going to end up subsidizing it in the future.
Sure.
Like your taxes are going to go up because Goodall is going to build here.
Right.
That like you look at the numbers, it's a net loser over the long term.
Yep.
Well, we talked.
And you still got a neighborhood in your backyard.
Yeah, we talked about this before, but I mentioned it's a as someone who works in marketing, I count on this being true, and it is true. People make decisions based on emotions, and they will look for data to back up the decision they already made. That's what's happening here. It's just people feel a certain way about it. Sometimes it's racist, sometimes it's classist, sometimes it's elitist, whatever you want to call it. Sometimes it's just uninformed fear. It could be anything. I'm not saying everyone who's against growth or against this is a racist. I'm not saying that.
Yep.
Some people are though, but they feel a certain way, and then they look for data to back it up. And when you feel a certain way and then look for data to back it up, you end up doing things like making a Facebook post where you calculate density differently for two different neighborhoods based on how you feel about them,
Right.
not on the same math.
Yep.
After you spent a bunch of time patting yourself on the back in front of the town about how you created a spreadsheet that calculates all this stuff, but then when it comes time to show somebody who is uneducated what that means, you won't be honest about what that actually means.
Yep.
And so that's what's happening. Stop using your emotions as your main factor for decision making and actually use data. And I think
I think people will disagree with that because on the surface it's cold.
yeah.
But it's not, because if you use data to make good decisions, you're doing so for the betterment of a whole instead of one.
Right.
You're trying to make the town better for everyone instead of making the town better for you specifically.
And that's the kind of board we need. If this was a board on Wall Street, they would only make decisions based on data, and they would ignore all of the noise out in the public marketplace.
Right.
Yep.
Otherwise, they'd be out of a job.
Yep. Let's take a break. And we'll do it.
I was talking to somebody at work like a couple of weeks back, and I was trying to explain the process of the insider to them, and like 10 minutes into the convo, they're like, "You're an immigrant, right?" I'm like, "Yeah," and you use writing as your mode of like changing the town over. I'm like, "Well, now that you mention it, that is kind of up."
Let me go ahead and write that down because we recorded that. I'm gonna.
Oh, come on, no, not yet.
I really want to send. I might actually do it this week. I'm just gonna send a blank spreadsheet to all the commissioners,
Like, use this one.
just as a troll. Like,
Yeah.
like, hey guys, I got something to help you guys calculate density going forward.
Yeah.
It's just blank.
Or just like a screenshot of a business card for Brian, right? From TPEDC. It's like, hey guys, anytime you have a density
Yeah.
dispute, just reference this.
Yeah,
I found a guy.
plug this number into your phone.
So yeah, we I guess we're recording again. We'll just keep this whole thing going. Is there anything we just said that you don't want me to put in the show? No?
Not at all. No.
Okay, we're good. Okay.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Good. That makes it easier for me.
Is there anything I've said that I should?
No,
I
I don't
should
know.
want you to
No,
put in
I
the show.
You know, I
You
just,
you did go after children earlier.
Did
So
I?
the hot takes of this entire episode can be boiled down to a few hashtags. Hot pocket takes.
yes, hot pocket takes.
NIMBYs are not NIMBY enough or are not good NIMBYs.
Yeah.
And Chris hates children's
Children.
baseball, or children in general.
Yeah.
Chris just hates kids.
No, I'm never gonna live
Chris
that
hates
down.
anybody under 6 feet tall.
Yeah. It's true.
Fair.
I'm on the
He
hate
did
list.
tell me to get taller. When he was trying to adjust my mic, he told me to get taller,
Yeah.
which I took very great offense to.
Actually, it's kind of unfortunate we did put Chris, the tallest person in our group, in the highest chair.
The highest
Yeah.
chair.
And closest to the camera edge, which makes you look even bigger because the way the lens works. So no, we said, look, you base decisions on, and I think the reason why that sounds cold and like we said, base decisions on facts, not feelings. That's not. We're not saying that's the way to live your life as a human being all the time. Like like I wasn't like I'm not like a Big Bang Theory cast member like
Right.
studying data when I figured out whether or not I was gonna propose to my wife or whatever. Like, I'm not saying like live your life that way. And I think that's why sometimes when people say that kind of stuff, it feels very
Cold.
cold. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
But when it comes to like running a business or running a government for a large number of people who have to in some way benefit from this, because at the end of the day, we've talked about this before, government's job is to provide services to the citizens, maintain obviously basic services that every citizen expects, roadways, I know that we don't quite have it yet, but like, sewers and, water service, electricity in the same way that, we get some of those services from other places or whatever. But that is the government's job, is to provide some of those services to citizens because there's no one better to do it. And so when making those decisions, you probably should make those decisions based on data. You can't build roads by summoning money out of nowhere. You have to pay for those roads. So you have to get the money from somewhere. Where does the money come from? And every neighborhood that gets built, there are roads in those neighborhoods. So those neighborhoods, and those neighborhoods affect the roads they connect to, which are what impact fees are supposed to cover. But we've already talked about how they don't actually cover that stuff over time. It's just.
I think to go back to something you said earlier, like the whole marketing principle, right? Of like playing to people's emotions and then like using data to try to justify what you've already emotionally decided on. I think that's honestly what's at the core of what I struggle with a lot of our leadership here in town is I look at them coming in and voting on things with this like just pre kind of meditated thought process of like what they want. And that's so emotionally driven. You can just hear it in the way that they describe it and who they're listening to and who they're advocating for. But then they try to twist the data to somehow like make what they feel work. And I mean, this is why I love data, is because like you can't make data work the other way.
Right.
Data says what it says.
Right.
So in this case, it's like you can't make the data say that mixed use doesn't work. Like it just doesn't. It doesn't say that. It says it does. And like there's study after study after study that shows that like what they are advocating for doesn't work. It doesn't matter how much you feel like it's better for the town. And I mean, look, like at the end of the day, like, do I want to live in an apartment again? No. Like I just did it
Right.
like
Yeah.
a year and a half ago.
An illegal
You know?
apartment.
Yeah, sure. And a legal one. I did both.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
But like, yeah, I mean, like, was it glorious? No. Like, am I saying that like, that's like what I want to go back to? And personally, no. But like, I'm not going to somehow like throw that opinion on like a bunch of other people and say, well, we shouldn't have that because people don't ever need it.
Right.
Right.
Well, so I do want to point out though, because what you said is absolutely correct. You can't make data say the other thing. But what you can do, and what I've seen done, is what happens. The perfect example is the school overcrowding discussion.
Yeah.
Is you can take half the data
Yeah.
and point out what that means without looking at the other half.
Right.
So you can make that data work for your purposes if you don't want to tell the whole truth. You can say, look at the negative impact this thing is going to have by looking at this half of it.
Yep.
And the context always has to be, well, that same negative impact might be the same or worse if you do the other thing you're suggesting.
Right.
Or would it happen no matter what you do? Or is it not all the data there is to look at?
Right.
And so, because I could just hear someone taking what you just said, which I 100% agree with, and then saying, well, look, that's right, but look at the data I found about how Darcy is 22 units per acre and how terrible 22 units per acre is for traffic. And it's like, well, here are all the other reasons why that's not actually like true. Like the data 100%, if you're looking at apples to apples data, can't lead you astray.
100%. And like, I don't think anyone is going to argue that in the short term, like, because we have to talk about like short term, long term. There are all these different factors at play.
Thank you.
If you build mixed use in the short term, yeah, like roads are not like, it's not going to like be like this equal thing where it's like you like a developer comes in and builds this huge like mixed use development and then bam, like the day that it's done, the roads are done too. Right. Doesn't work that. It just doesn't work that way. And anyone that tells you differently, thank you.
You got it.
Is like crazy. Like that isn't how it works. So there's always going to be some lag that occurs, but the point is like building Goodall, because we've already talked about it. Building a single family residential development like Goodall.
Boo.
Only brings people with minimal infrastructure investment and doesn't ever provide the funding long term to actually fix the thing fix the problem that it either adds to or creates.
Yeah.
And like we've already played this out where you build a crap load of single family residential developments, none of them actually paid to like build out any sort of infrastructure to handle the people, and
Proof of concept
and
no one's will.
long term also do not pay to build out any of that infrastructure. Right. So it's like the one-time fees didn't go to build it out, and the long-term fees don't go. So what do you do?
You mentioned a really interesting word that I had not that I've every time I've edited the podcast and listened to all of us talk about this, I've thought about this, and I always forget to bring it up on the show. I'm so glad you said the word lag, because I hope people recognize that government moves at a snail's pace.
Yeah.
Both in action, but also in consequence. So, like, for example, what we're seeing now, probably just in general in town, whatever you kind of observe in the town, is the consequence of what happened at least 2 or 3 years ago.
Yep.
At least. And that's going to be true, always,
right.
kind of like going forward. And so, for example, to be fair, it's not Jessica Salamita or Kate Kortner's fault, the traffic we have right now. They're particular. They didn't vote something in this last week that now we're all like dealing with. That's not how it works.
Right.
We are dealing with the decisions that were made, like I said, at least 2 or 3 years ago right now, and we won't know the consequences of what the decisions they make are until probably 2 or 3 years from now at least. But what you have to do is look at similar lines of thought, similar platforms, similar supporters, whatever you want to do. And that lag time is something that I think a lot of voters or citizens don't fully appreciate in a way that allows them to be clear-headed about what is happening in the town.
That's kind of interesting though, because the lag is there. There is also a lag, and I'm trying to come up with a way to explain this. It makes sense in my head. I'm trying to get it out. So there's that lag provides you a very small window of opportunity that we're about to close that opportunity. If you look at I'm just gonna go down the list to make this make sense. Victor Lay, town manager, by far perceived as the next granddaddy of the next generation of town managers, right? So Mike Walker is the renowned guy. He's already retired. He's has a consulting firm, but he's kind of the gold standard of what town managers should do in Middle Tennessee. Victor Lay is that next guy. He took the Nolensville job on the potential that Nolensville had. Roddy Parker, this is the assistant sheriff that took a small town job on the potential of what Nolensville might be.
Yep.
David Windrow, assistant chief of the Brentwood Fire Department, took this job on the potential of what Nolensville could become. You have somebody like Christina, right? She's our finance director.
Yep.
She took that job because it was a great. These jobs don't pay as well as other municipalities. Like Christina could have made. She won 2 state awards for exceptional budgets. She could have took jobs in Brentwood and Franklin where they pay more. She took this job, and I can guarantee you it's because of the potential of what Nolensville is or could be. And you can go down the list of all these employees, of all these developers that are trying to get in here on the potential. If you keep screwing this up, you're gonna close that window, that leg, right? So you're in that leg area of like you have that buffer of like we changed the charter, people saw a lot of potential, and for the next 2 or 3 years, they're pushing their chips into the middle of the table. Like, okay, I'll bet on this potential, and if you don't capitalize on it, you're gonna end up with the same crap that you had before. You're gonna end up with a town manager that gets sued over sexual harassment. You're gonna end up with a police chief that has to leave because of the same exact lawsuit. You're gonna end up with somebody moonlighting as a public works director that's also a cop that's also picking up chicks at a Sonics. Like you're gonna end up back there if you don't capitalize on it. That leg works both ways.
Right.
Like you have
the goodwill, the good stuff.
right, the good stuff. You do have that leg of like, it takes a while for people to realize that it kind of is going nowhere.
Yeah.
Yep. No, and I think that there are a lot of unintended consequences. We've never talked about this before.
That's my triggering term.
But no, they're seeing 2 new commissioners like take their seats, their first meeting. There are a lot of unintended consequences that come with a board being stacked the way it is with a political ideology that they have locally, at least.
Right.
And I don't think that we know that everyone at town hall is safe. Meaning, like, I don't think anyone's going to fire them. But like,
Right.
what if they don't want to stay? Like, what if they read
that's a very like that,
that's a super real possibility. Like, what if they read the writing on the wall and they're like, "Oh, none of these people want like this town to progress forward. They're gonna just hold it where it is." Like, we don't want to work in that. Like, people want to work for an organization that's like growing and like moving
exactly
forward. And
100%.
And frankly, like if I was on the staff at town hall, the reason I would want it to grow forward is because, one, they're all overworked as it is. The only way that they get more funds to be able to grow their departments is if the town grows.
Yeah.
And so
imagine working for a company and your CEO, your board of directors said, stop growing.
Yeah.
We don't want to get bigger. Stop making all this money.
Yeah, it's-
like imagine working for a
it's
company like that.
absolutely crazy.
That is what our town staff is working for.
Correct.
A quote unquote a mandate to pause and not build and not make more money and like make this country feel that has been proven over and over and over and over again that it loses your money.
Correct.
No,
Like the reason why, sorry, Danto.
You're good.
The reason why Chicago and New York and LA has these high taxes is because they have done this sprawl for a lot longer than Nashville has. They've like the suburbs in Chicago are nearing 100 years in age.
Yeah.
And they're going bankrupt and they have to keep raising taxes because these old suburbs had this life cycle that has passed over 4 different times, and every time this life cycle ends, which is about every 20 years, they have to spike up taxes. So it's not these blue politics, even though my politics are not blue, but like it's not these blue politics of these people that are conning the system. It's the freaking sprawl that keeps bankrupting the new residents that keep moving in there. Like it's a proven fact. Look at the freaking data.
It's the way that they developed.
It's exactly the way they developed. If you look at revenue per acre, there's examples over examples of like this mom and pop shop, coffee or pizza delivery place that's like on like 0.02 of an acre.
Yep.
And they're selling so much pizza they're outperforming a Walmart because Walmart had to sprawl out and had to meet all these regulations, meet all these parking regulations, detention ponds, setbacks, like what have you. Like you devalued that land so much that they're not as profitable as like Matt's pizza delivery in the middle of town.
Yeah, so I actually think it's worse though than what you guys are saying, which is like imagine working for a company that said that. What I actually think it's more like is saying, look, we're going to continue to grow. This is something that like I relate to, like very vague, like ancillary to this, but kind of the same. Because I work for a company that has franchises.
Yeah.
It'd be like them coming to me and saying, hey, look, we're going to keep adding franchises and we are going to keep growing, but also, and we want you to support all of these franchisees from the marketing side, which is what I do. We want you to keep supporting all of them the same way you've done for these smaller group, but we're not going to give you any more money.
Yep.
You are going to grow, but we're not going to give you the budget.
You're not going to have you have no resources.
That's actually what it is. It's not we want you to stop growing. It's no, we're going to keep growing. We're going to keep being quote unquote successful, but we want you to keep doing what you've already done, but we're going to give you actually per capita less resources to do
I mean
the same thing.
Look,
and everyone's going to be mad at you if you don't do your job.
Look at what just happened at the meeting. Like you have like a baller ass town planner, like so experienced.
Yeah, I mean, he came from Anaheim.
Right. And what's he saying? I don't have time. My team.
It's not even time. I don't have the capability.
Like we don't have
capacity
time.
is tapped.
What you are wanting us to do, we can't do it. We don't have the time. We don't have the resources to carry out what you're instructing us to do because we have all this other work to do. Mm-hmm. And like I think everybody at Town Hall knows it's inevitable. Nolensville's going to grow. One way or the other, it's going to grow.
Right.
But like they also, I think, whether or not you want to say they've drank the Kool-Aid, like they believe because they've worked in places where they've seen smart growth, where they've seen growth that actually like pans out and pays for itself.
Right.
They know that like if we grow a certain way and what that means for their jobs and their departments means like more normal work-life balance.
Yeah.
More normal hours, more workload. Mm-hmm. Like it's just a benefit. And like why wouldn't they want that? You know?
Yeah.
So the unintended consequences though are like, okay, so they're gonna start pushing this agenda out there, and all of a sudden, like these people are gonna read the writing on the wall. And I'm not making this up. We saw it when Better Nolensville like pushed the charter change through.
Right.
Town staff, all those people who worked for BOMA were like, peace.
I was making breaking news resignation posts like once or twice a month at that point. Yeah.
So I mean, I don't think it's any different. Like we have a town staff that's full of people who believed in the vision of what
on the potential
on the potential of what Nolensville could be, and they were sold that. They were hired based on
they took pay cuts and
correct,
and they were willing to sign up for the leg.
Correct.
to realize that potential.
Because I think it's no fault of Victor's. I think Victor was able to sell them on the fact that like, look, like this is where the town's headed. I think everyone's on board, and I think what you've seen the last like few years, and certainly through this election, is a bunch of people saying no, we're not on board with that, and it's going to have a huge detriment. Like
it's got to
look at where town staff was under Boma.
Yeah.
And just imagine what we could go back to, because that's the kind of talent that you can hire when nobody wants to work in your freaking town.
Two things have to suck. One of them being, imagine being somebody like Victor or Brent, and you know the answers, and you're presenting the answers in a very adequate way. You have an expert that you paid almost $500,000 for to like reinforce what you believe is true, not even what the data supports. So you have $500,000 worth of experts, 2 town seasoned staff members are telling you the right answers, and it all boils down to feelings.
Right.
Like, how does this person feel? How does this person feel? That's got to be maddening. The other thing too is that this week, and then to kind of drive the point across, if you don't think Nolensville has a money problem, we all live in $1 million subdivisions. Like, money rains down on the single family growth here. Our fire department just put up a double wide on cinder blocks on land that they don't even own.
Right.
On borrowed land, they put up a double wide on cinder blocks.
Yep.
So, like, it's almost like riddle me this. Like, how can you tell me that everything's fine, and then we have to put firefighters in trailer homes?
And our mayor, our new mayor, Haley, rumor is at the Christmas party for the town, told the chief of the fire department's wife that she thought it looked ugly.
It does look ugly, but it's the best we can do right now.
But the point is, like, just how can
And then meanwhile,
how can the person who won't vote to provide the funds to the department to actually build something that's like good and like whatever, like to actually like fund them and give them the resources to do what they need to do.
It's like
this
Michael,
is proving the point.
It's like Michael Scott in the first season of The Office when he brought the iPod to the Dirty Santa party, and when he set a dollar limit
Right.
on the party, and then complained about how crappy everyone else's gifts were.
Exactly.
It's like, you set the limit, my man.
Yeah, it's like you voted to not fund the fire department to like go build a department.
But it's not even that. You're voting for crappy. You're voting for crappy development that won't pay.
Correct.
Like,
this is what happens. You get a double wide.
Yeah, you get a double wide on. Like, it's not even that. It's like I was actually like, I took a few pictures of it, and like, obviously I'm in real estate, so I have friends that are in real estate, and I was like emailing or texting all my buddies in real estate, like, look at this. Like, have you ever seen somebody forego site prepping, meaning leveling the site and putting it up on stilts?
Eight cinder blocks
like,
high.
hey Larry, like, forget the bobcat and gravel. Just go get a pellet of cinder blocks from Home Depot, and then we'll level this thing out. Don't worry about it. Like, that's basically what happened here. And there is an aspect of it where my heart was aching because there was 2 posts that I've seen on a 411, probably more by now, but there's 2 posts that called it out, and that's not Chief Window's fault. That is not town staff's fault. That's nobody's fault other than the fact that we are such an insolvent town that we're forced to do this. We're forced to wait on buying up land. We're forced to wait on constructing new firehouse. We're forced to lease land from the county. We're forced into a double wide trailer because the crap we've been doing isn't freaking working.
And I'm just gonna hammer the nail in the coffin on this one, because it has to be said. That is what happened to the fire department that we voted 2 or 3 years ago to raise taxes to fully fund.
Right.
Like,
yeah, we raised taxes to fully
we
fund.
literally
we have a trailer park.
we doubled our tax rate
Double wide.
For a double wide. Oh,
for a double wide.
close it
There's a
down,
hot
Daniel.
take.
Yeah, there it is. All right, that's
Hot
it.
pocket. It's a hot pocket take, sir.
Hot pocket take right there. Thanks for watching Small Town Charm. This has been a good one, and we'll see you next time with some new stuff. Who knows what's going to happen between now and then? But thank you for watching and listening. We'll see you next time.